In the year 2003, Interplay and Black Isle would cancel production on a game they were working on. The project name was Van Buren, a code name for Fallout 3. Van Buren is not the only canceled Fallout project, not by a long shot. It stands out because it was supposed to be the third title in the series, but also because it is the only canceled Fallout game that has so much information available to the public. In this video, I'm going to go over what led to the cancellation of the first Fallout 3, the hardships and missteps of Interplay and the Fallout series. I will cover what we know about the story of Van Buren and how it leads to Fallout New Vegas. And there's a lot of info out there about the project, over 700 documents and even a tech demo. And I'll be covering this in the video as well. For a more complete dive into the content of Van Buren, I highly suggest Retcon Raiders series. He has several videos diving deep into the documents of Van Buren. This video is more to cover the journey to and the aftermath of Van Buren, not only the ups and downs of Interplay, but its place in the Fallout universe as a whole. So let's take a look at Van Buren, the lost Fallout 3. But before we get into it, I got to give a shout out to this video's sponsor, your boy, Filmora9. Filmora9 is a great editor for anyone. Beginner to guru can find exactly what they're looking for with their easy-to-use interface, and with just a few clicks, you can make something silly or something much more professional.
But Mantis, how can I assure that your seal of approval here is genuine?
Well, that's a great question. Out of the 1,600 plus videos I've made and uploaded to YouTube, I used Wondershare Filmora on all of them. That's right, on all of them. I wouldn't try to sell you something I didn't use myself, and I can honestly say that using Filmora9 has been a great experience. Fast exports, no problem with larger projects, and it allows me to make professional looking videos with just a few clicks. No matter if I'm making a rant video or a more heavily edited project like a video essay, Filmora9 has always suited my needs. Check it out down in the link below. We start at the end of Interplay with this one. I assume most people watching this video know that Interplay was the original developer and publisher of Fallout. Most of you probably know that Black Isle Studios would grow from Interplay to focus on role-playing games and go on to develop Fallout 2. So it would be safe to also assume that you know that Interplay eventually would go under. After trying to stay afloat and selling off various assets, including the Fallout IP to Bethesda, they couldn't pull it together.
I declare bankruptcy!
There are rumblings that Interplay remains to this day, but to think they hold the same presence that they did back in the day would be false. One of the unfortunate titles to end up in the crosshairs would be Van Buren, of course, the codename for Black Isle's Fallout 3. Hindsight is always 20/20, and everyone likes to be an armchair CEO. But on that note, I do believe that had Interplay and Black Isle focused more on this idea of Fallout 3, instead of trying to reinvent the series with titles like Fallout Tactics, the most underrated game in the series, and Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, the worst rated, at the time, game in the series, Interplay may be in a different position now. But I am no businessman, and I hardly have the knowledge to make that claim. It's just an opinion. Who knows what was stacked up against Interplay, as what is public is pretty daunting by itself. Regardless of what was going on business-wise with Interplay, Van Buren was decently far into production when the plug was pulled, with some saying that it was near completion. Though I doubt this rumor, as the tech demo that leaked along with the design documents seemed to be pretty unpolished and was missing a lot of features that the game was set to host. Many menu items and skills didn't work, combat was broken and janky, and the environments, though a refreshing change to the original Fallout games, felt unfinished, bland. A massive sign that what we see here is very alpha. No final assets in use, and low effort renders to get the job done. Of course, there's nothing wrong with this at all. This is a tech demo. It's supposed to give the basic idea of what the game has in store, or at the very least, what the devs have in mind. And this demo for Van Buren does this well. But it squashes any rumors that this version of Fallout 3 was close to the end of production though. We are nearly 20 years removed from when this game was canceled. Had they been 90% done with it, as some people have speculated, we would see far more than a tech demo get released. Whoever leaked this stuff leaked everything there was. And we haven't heard Chris Avalon say he has the only copy and he's not sharing, nor have any other past Black Isle devs. Josh Sawyer, the man behind New Vegas, who worked on Van Buren, doesn't seem to have some secret copy stored away either. And Bethesda certainly wouldn't see the trouble in letting fans see what was there. So it is safe to say that this is as far as they actually got when developing Van Buren, and I beg any past devs to prove me wrong. You know the story. Interplay went down, and the Fallout IP would go to Bethesda. They would go on to make Fallout 3, a drastically different take on what was planned by Black Isle, and we would never see the first division of the third entry. We do, however, know the outline of the story thanks to the document leak. With over 700 documents being leaked for Van Buren, it is easy to piece together what the idea for the original Fallout 3 was. Taking place in the Southwest Commonwealth and the 4 states Commonwealth, with Nevada, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado being a part of the map, Van Buren would follow the prisoner in the year 2253. That's 176 years after the Great War and 12 years after the events of Fallout 2. We would assume the role of the prisoner at the Tibbets prison, a post-war facility, the plot being that the player has pissed off the NCR and for this has been locked up in a cell. We would have been able to decide what crimes that the prisoner was charged with and if we were even guilty at all. This would act as a way to set up the character and stats and probably the playstyle as well. Eventually, there would be an explosion at Tibbets that would result in significant damage to the complex. This would allow the player to escape while being attacked by pretty much an unknown force, fleeing being the only option available. There are others held at Tibbets as well, and they would have played a part in the story in a pretty big way, though they wouldn't be at the top of our list of worries, as now a giant robot from Tibbets would be on the hunt for the player. Though it is said the player would not have a hard time evading this monster, it would not stop until it caught up with the prisoner and brought them back to Tibbets, where we could just as quickly leave again and start the chase all over again. Leaving Tibbets, the goal would be to figure out just what the hell that was all about. The prison and everyone in it was clearly attacked, and the prisoner was only barely able to escape with their life. That's a pretty big event. After a while, we would find out that a rogue NCR scientist by the name of Victor Presper had been the mastermind. Presper is disgusted by what the world has become since the Great War. Through his advanced intellect and comfortable NCR position, he was able to learn about the new plague. This was a virus that FEV was created to cure. The infection went by a few names: the new plague, the blue flu, and Limit 115, and this was a socially transmitted disease that gave flu-like symptoms, which eventually led to a national quarantine. The sickness would worsen in most cases, leading to violent hemorrhaging, and anyone who did survive would become sterile. Presper's plan was to use this as a reset button. This mixed with a big fucking bomb. It turns out Tibbets is a quarantine prison. Argos, the giant robot chasing the prisoner, is doing so to contain the virus. And you guessed it, the player has it. It gets worse. Not only have we been sick with the blue flu, but we have been also spreading it around to every location we have visited, infecting the population with the virus. While racing to find a cure, we must also dodge Presper and his robots, and to do so before the wasteland dies. The attack on Tibbets was just a false flag, a way to get a bunch of infected people to bust out of the prison and give Presper an excuse to use his bombs. So, there is another clock we are fighting: Presper's nukes. From Ballistic Orbital Missile Base 001, a large donut-shaped US space station known as Bomb 001, he would be able to launch at least 24 nuclear-tipped missiles at any target he wanted, using the Boulder Dome as a safe haven for his own selected population. He would wait it out and then give an all-clear signal to his pure-blooded human friends. This would ultimately end with a confrontation between the prisoner and Presper aboard the space station. Van Buren would allow the player to make pretty much any choice they wanted. They could agree with Presper and help him fulfill his plan. They could take revenge on any of the factions they felt wronged them through the course of the game, like the NCR, the Brotherhood, or the Legion, or they could just nuke everybody, to name a few. A truly out-of-this-world conclusion for a pretty crazy story. I've heard many people say that New Vegas is just Van Buren, that the ideas we see in New Vegas are Obsidian living out their fantasy from their Black Isle days and recycling their old ideas. This is not the case. New Vegas more closely resembles what Black Isle had planned for Fallout 4. People make these assumptions due to the presence of the Legion and characters like Joshua Graham, who would have been a companion of Van Buren, making appearances. The events in New Vegas actually follow up with those of Van Buren in a pretty light way. Though Van Buren is not considered canon in any way because of the fact it was never released, New Vegas establishes some of the lore that was going to be put out with Van Buren and kind of wraps it up, showing where the NCR and the Legion went after the events of Van Buren, which would have led into the first battle of Hoover Dam for the two factions, as Hoover Dam was set to be a significant location in the game, overrun with super mutants that have found refuge since the fall of the Master, and showing a bloody war between the NCR and the Brotherhood of Steel, which would have acted as a pretty substantial element of the plot. We can't rewrite history. The Fallout IP has played out this way, whether it was for better or for worse. Some may think that Van Buren was nothing special. Fallout 3 by Bethesda seems better to them, and there is nothing to mourn. Others, like myself, would have loved to see the story play out, to see this chapter of the Wasteland run its course. Luckily, we have documents and demos to give us a taste, and we can still read what these great minds had in store for this beautiful game. Maybe, just maybe, one day, someone with some talent will piece together a whole game experience. Until then, it's just going to have to be Van Buren, The Lost Fallout 3. Thank you for watching my video on Van Buren. If you liked this video and want to see more like it, make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe, as it helps the channel out a lot, and that's your best chance of staying notified when a new video gets dropped. I want to thank my patrons and YouTube channel members. Your continued support helps out so much, and I'm super grateful. An extraordinary thanks to my biggest supporters, Kim Jong-un, RJ Morales, Your Typical Redneck, Fireflare, Corbin King, James Starkey, Primark Mustard, and Mark Train. Thank you guys so much, and I hope to keep bringing you content that you are proud of. If you'd like to see your name in these credits, or even get a shout out like these beautiful people, check out the blue join button or the Patreon link in the description below. I hope you all are safe and happy. I will see you on the next one. It has been Mantis.
I gotta testify. Come up in the spot looking extra fly. For the day you die, you gon' touch the sky. You gon' touch the sky, baby girl. Testify. Come up in the spot looking extra fly. For the day you die, you gon' touch